Bell Time by Sophie Tuvey, Chapter 8. So what shall I tell Dad? Katie asked on the phone that night. You can't come to Sunday lunch because you have marking and planning, and now you've also decided to apply for promotion. Yes, I suppose so, I say, cradling my phone to my ear while stepping through the obstacle course in my lounge to find the pile of Year 7 letters about plastic pollution I was meant to mark tonight. You can't just come for the meal and then do your work afterwards? I sigh. You know I want to, but it's never just an hour or so with Dad. It'll take over the whole day. He's all we've got left, she says, with unsugared brutality. Don't do this, I say. There's a heavy silence. So, you really want to be head of English? I don't know, I say, finally locating the papers. On the top, a kid called Rupert has addressed his letter to Mr. P.L. Astic. I don't want him bossing me around, that's for sure. If I don't try, I'll never know. You're an awesome teacher, she says. You've got just as much right to get that promotion as he does, if not more. But you've got no life. When was the last time you worked on your story? When was the last time you went on a date? I just haven't had any time, I wail, and no one is asking me out. You've got to make time, and you've got to meet people. You're letting school take over your life. Well, it's hard not to when the head is asking for meaningless paperwork all the time. We've done book scrutinies and learning walks, and Michael's observed me, and I'm running this theatre trip on top of everything else. Just get your application done, Katie says impatiently. Then make it up to Dad. Take him out for Sunday lunch or something. Okay, I promise. I'll do that. I view the Hod job advert again and download the application form. I read the requirements. Qualified teacher status, proven record of classroom management, experience of responsibility, a passion for the subject. I'm qualified and I love English, but my run-ins with the boys group really undermines my classroom management. With Jeff as Hod and Liz as second in department, I haven't really been given any official responsibility. But because Liz doesn't do anything, I suppose I can list the things she was supposed to do that I help with, like this Year 8 travel writing unit. I'm really enjoying that actually. A few extracts from Bill Bryson and Gerald Durrell and creative tasks for the students. I think it will be engaging and stretch them to use irony. Perhaps I should just work on that instead. I persuade myself to do the easy part of the application first, the data section of my grades and personal details. I was a straight A student, so no issues there. The form asks for degree qualification, but not which university. I wonder where Michael studied. The familiar curl of dissatisfaction and shame unfolds in my stomach when I think about uni. I could have gone somewhere much better than our nearest city, but Dad. I can still remember the conversation I had with Janet Patchell, who was my form tutor, in the classroom where Michael teaches now. The dust in the corners, the musty smell in the bookstore cupboard, and displays of my work on the walls. You could go to any of the top universities, she said. Don't you think it might be good to get a fresh start? I can't leave my dad, I explained. She knew what we'd been through. In fact, she'd been the one to ask me if I wanted them to apply for special dispensation to the exam board when my mum dropped back into our lives, only to tell us that she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and had months to live. I refused because I wanted my grades to be my own. I buried myself in studying because I couldn't play happy families with mum and dad as if she hadn't left us to go travelling, paint second-rate pictures and have an affair with a yoga instructor. Dad forgave her and loved her to the end, and he's still mourning her loss now. One day I might feel less angry, but after she died, I had to commute to lectures from home because I needed to cook meals for Dad and Katie and make sure the house didn't fall apart. Michael's going to write about his amazing 8 years of teaching, pushing educational boundaries and displaying an unfailing commitment to excellence and high standards. The last 8 years for me have been about survival. I got through uni, I did my teaching qualification, and I got a job at my old school because through all of it, I could live at home and look after my dad and my sister. When Katie started uni, and she did move into halls of residence, I felt that sense of what I'd lost, of what I'd given up. The thing is, I don't think Dad even registered it. He was, and still is to some extent, living in a haze of grief. I moved out a year ago into my greasy bedsit flat, giving up the luxuries of living in a comfortable 3-bed semi and being insured on my dad's car, because I just needed to find something that was mine. Each morning when I walk into Whitlock County, 1,000 memories of my life are etched upon the walls. Maybe that's why I'm still there. But I can't put any of this in my application. Why am I even doing this? I look at the pile of Year 7 letters and start to read the first one. Dear Mr. P.L. Astic, I am writing to you today to ask you to stop using single-use plastic for your products. Did you know that over 8 million pieces of plastic go into the ocean every year? They end up choking dolphins and being eaten by seagulls, and then they have no room in their stomach for food and they die of starvation. I smile as I remember the class discussion we had about this. We watched a video clip and they were all shocked at the impact plastic has on sea life. Without fail, children are appalled by anything that causes harm to animals. They say things like, "Why don't we just stop making plastic then?" And in their minds, it's a simple problem with an easy solution. They see everything in black and white. I love that. The HOD application requires a personal statement. I start to type. I am a passionate teacher and my job is a privilege. There's no other profession where I can discuss the impact of plastic pollution, the obsessive love of Cathy and Heathcliff, and the use of the comma before lunchtime. As I continue to type, I find I'm writing about why I chose teaching, what my strengths are, and what I could bring to the role if I was appointed. It's just a first draft and it will need polishing, but it's not bad. Not as bad as I thought it would be. Maybe, just maybe, I have a chance.